Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back to the show. We're so excited to have David Fishman here joining us today, our travel specialist and advisor from Cadillac Travel Worldwide. He's helping you as an individual, as a couple, as a family, as friends, travel anywhere around the world. And we're excited to have him back. He's located in Royal Oak, Michigan, but once again, worldwide. CadillacTravel.com is the website. And let me have the man himself say hello. Hi, David.
Hey, glad to be back. So nice to see you again.
Same here. Excited to have you here. Now, you have like a lot of experience in this field. Seriously, very trustworthy name, amazing testimonials. We urge you to go to the website, Cadillac Travel. Tell us a little bit about yourself and company. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about cruising today.
Yes, we're getting out on the open seas today. I'm so excited. It's one of my favorite things to do is cruising. So Cadillac Travel, we've been around for 40 years now, helping people travel all over the world, seeing every inch of this globe. Have over 600 years of travel destination knowledge in my office, a great experienced staff that pretty much have had boots on the ground anywhere in the world. So we're here to help you make your memories of a lifetime and incredible experiences and make it all go seamlessly and easy for you.
Now, by the way, you are worldwide. You're helping every aspect of travel, correct?
There's not anything we can't do for you, or we can do hotels, we can do tours, we can do air, we can do cars, we can do boats, planes, trains, automobiles, as you say, anything and everything you need done to make sure you have an incredible experience anywhere you go in the world.
Awesome. Well, last year I was trying to get my kids, it was a year and a half ago, on a cruise, just the three of us, a little small Port Canaveral cruise on Royal Caribbean. And then the COVID testing stopped for the airlines, but not for the cruise ships. Turns out my son had COVID, so he couldn't go on the cruise. But that's something I want to do next. Let's talk a little bit about it because it did confuse me when I booked it. I booked it myself, but I'm confused about reading online and what's included, what's not included. So let's go over that. Could you share what is included in the cost of a cruise normally?
Well, with the cost of the cruise, what's normally included is your cabin, your entertainment, your food, are the main things that are included. But what a lot of the cruise lines now are going to even a more inclusive model where you can have your gratuities and your alcohol included as well. And then some of them also have a shipboard credit and or different tours that may be included. And sometimes as you go into the higher end ships, everything's included, whether it be the alcohol, the tours, and everything like that. So there's many things that's the things that you have to be careful of. You have to pay attention to what's included and what's not included. So that's an important thing to use a travel professional for, is finding out really what you're getting and also what fits. Yeah. Always, one of my favorite things, I always say, what size shoe do you wear? Because I want to make sure that it's the right cruise for you, because you're going on with your kids. You're not going to go on a seabourn or, region with your kids, and but you'll go on a Royal Caribbean or NCL type of situation.
Yeah, for sure. Now everyone wants the best discount available. How does it work? Give us the inside scoop. Are there really discounts on cruises? They're advertised all the time, but is there always fine print?
Well, it's interesting because cruising is one of those things that a lot of companies, you'll see there's a million cruise companies online. Very confusing, but they all have some similar things where we have black space. The consortium, I'm part of 300 travel agencies across the country, around the world, have black space on different cruise dates, which gives discounts and additional amenities. And sometimes, for example, I'll be talking about this, I'm actually hosting a cruise for my group going out of London through the Baltics, coming the end of this month for basically 12 days in 9 different countries. It's an incredible experience. And I am going to be there for everyone to be your host, to make sure that you have an incredible experience. So we even have many hosted sailings also. So it gives you a little bit more peace of mind of not only having a travel professional there to plan your trip, but physically have you there with them to make that experience even more comfortable and even more special.
Wow. Just curious, what cruise line is this, by the way, that you're traveling on?
This one is Oceania.
Okay.
And like I said, it's going to 9 different countries. It's going to London, Paris. It's going to Rotterdam in the Netherlands. It's going to Estonia,
Wow.
Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Lithuania, and Poland. I mean, just an incredible list of countries to go to, and I'm really excited because there's some heritage and background there as
Yeah,
well.
to me, it feels like the benefit of cruising is that you're going to get a little bit of everything, more bang for your buck, I would assume, than to actually traveling to this individual airport, getting a hotel, then traveling again, right? I mean, you get to see a lot. It may not be as much, but you do get to see some of the highlights. What's your experience with cruises? What would you say is a great selling point for them?
That is one of the selling points is you don't have to pack and unpack, and then keep traveling while the boat's cruising during the evenings, or sometimes you do spend overnight. But the boat, your resort is moving,
Yeah.
not you. And so you get a better relaxed experience. And I always say, sometimes you may go to one place and you don't like it,
Yeah.
and you're stuck there for your whole entire trip. Now it's like a buffet. You get
Hmm.
you get a little tasting of many different countries. You get a flavor, and then you can go back and get more in depth into these countries. But it's just such a relaxing experience. And plus, the other thing about cruising that's great for families is it's the safest trip that you can take. It's the most relaxing trip at the same time, because it's like a cruise is a giant menu. And so you just kind of pick and choose. You don't reach into your pocket 1,000 times for all your entertainment. You have a lot more entertainment, a lot more things going on. And the last time I checked, not too many people are swimming up the ship to get on board and kidnap your kids. Okay. Anyone can walk into a resort or whatever, and getting on and off the ship, ID like crazy. And the people that work there are completely vetted. So, I mean, it's very safe. I know that a lot of people during COVID, or they hear the stories, once again, the stories about ships not being healthy. I'll address it. And there's a question that a lot of people bring up. So I think that's a good one to address right now is
Sure.
norovirus. You always hear, oh, they get on board the ship and everyone gets sick. Okay. The statistics show that on a daily basis, people going out to eat
Hmm.
at restaurants get sick more often than people do on cruise ships. But on cruise ships, 100 people get sick out of the, 1,000 or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's a story. On a daily basis, no one knows how many people are getting sick in restaurants they go to in their local
True.
neighborhood and state. So that's something really important to know about. And also, one of the jokes that every comedian ever says on board a cruise ship is like, I went to the bathroom, I came back, and my room was cleaned up and my bed was made. Well,
Hmm.
they're constantly cleaning, constantly making sure it's a safe. They're the original hand sanitizer people,
Yep.
original, right? Everywhere before you get on board the ship, before you go in any restaurant, you're getting your hand sanitizer. And then the buffets themselves, to many of the restaurants are actually hand washing stations. I don't know a restaurant I walked into lately where before, as I'm walking in, I get to wash my hands. So it's very safe and clean. It got a really bad rep a little bit during COVID. So I just wanted to get that out there because it is safe, it is clean, and it's the most relaxing, best vacation you can take as a family.
Good to know. Thank you so much. All right. What else do we have on tap here? So much more to talk about when it comes to cruising. There's different types, different cruise lines. Let's talk about that.
And so, like as I was saying, so if you have a family, then you want to go with the cruise lines that cater more to the families. The new ship coming out for Royal Caribbean, for example, the Icon, is just like it's like 12 different neighborhoods. And in the neighborhoods you have, whether it be playing putt-putt or doing rock climbing or doing surfing or doing laser tag or playing pickleball or having bumper cars. I can go on and on. It's incredible how many activities you have. It will take you almost a whole week if you're on board for a week just to see every part of the ship and do all the activities.
Wow.
I mean, it's literally incredible. It's like 282 tons, which is like 4 blocks long. The old Vegas ship, in the Oasis class, two and a half two and a half times around the perimeter of the ship was a mile. That's insane.
Wow.
I mean, they're floating resorts, as they say, and they're really geared towards the NCLs, the Royal Caribbeans, Princess. Those are really great cruise lines for families, and they're really geared towards family and family activities. Obviously, Carnival out there is another one, an MSC, geared towards families. Then we can get into the mid-size and the luxury ships. Mid-size ships, smaller ships like the Azamara, Oceana, for example, that have smaller amounts of people, geared towards more of couples. Still some family stuff that you're going, maybe if you're going to Europe or some places. So those are wonderful for those type of people, and a little bit more upscale. And then you get into the smaller, really upscale ships like the Seabourns, like the Silver Seas, the Regents, which become really luxurious ships. They'll have Michelin star chefs along those lines, and have a lot of it's all inclusive, including really high-end liquors and amazing tours. And they all have spas on board these ships, from the family ships and the big ones, the Royal Caribbeans, to the luxurious ships. It just, you start getting into that more luxurious feel and more high-end amenities, and less people on board the ship. So it's a different type of experience.
Let me just ask you, like the older ships, for example, in Royal Caribbean, right? Because all the cruise lines have older ships. And from what I was reading, they have redone them all. Is it smarter if for your first time cruiser to start on a smaller ship, like an older ship? Or would it be too overwhelming to jump right to the Icon for a first cruise?
It could be pretty overwhelming jumping on the Icon as your first cruise. I agree with you. I think that sometimes starting on some of their older ships, they always refurbish them. The ship I'm going on right now is, shall I say, it's an older ship. It's been around since 2014 or 12. They just did a $200 million refurbishment of the ship and came back out December of 2022.
Wow.
So it's like a brand new ship.
Yeah.
And they do that. And they, as they say on Royal Caribbean, they oasis the new ship, the old ships. Like they put a lot of the amenities and new things that are on the new ships onto the old ships and refurbish them to have all the different amenities and activities. So you're still getting that experience. The ship's a little smaller, but it's been updated, and it's just as nice as the new ships. Not quite as big and not quite as many amenities, but a good place to start. And sometimes they'll have them in some of those 3, 4, 5-day cruise markets, so you get a feel for cruising. And once you cruise, that, I don't think you'll ever go back.
Awesome. What else did you want to share about cruising today? Again, if you're just tuning in, David Fishman here from Cadillac Travel.
One thing that people always say, two things I should say: I'm going to feel like I can't be claustrophobic. I can't be stuck on a boat for a week. I'll lose my mind. Well, if you can walk 2.5 miles around your boat, 2 laps around is a mile. That's a big boat. Okay, you are not going to feel claustrophobic. It's to the contrary. There's so much activities, so much to do, so much going on, and so much space that you'll be amazed that you are even on a boat. I mean, there's so many times when you're cruising that you'll not even realize that you're in the ocean. You're in the middle of the ocean, very big ocean, and you have no idea, because you're on your floating resort, your floating island, and you don't really know that you're even on a ship a lot of these times. The other thing that you hear, oh, well, I get seasick. Now, I'm the original seasick guy. I can't drive in the backseat of your car. I have to jump off a boat if I'm driving it, because I get so seasick. And I've been on 65 cruises. Okay, I'm the cruise expert, the cruise guy, virtually at every cruise line. And the boats are so big, you don't feel
it, right? Okay, good. That was my other thing, because my little guy takes the Dramamine motion sickness pills. He's 8. In the car ride, he vomits. And another concern. Interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah, so you're feeling a lot less motion. Now, let's just say you do have some concerns and you're very hypersensitive.
Mm-hmm.
There are products out there, non-drowsy. I always recommend the non-drowsy Bonine.
Yeah.
It's called Bonine. It's over the counter in every drugstore. works like a charm, chewable tablet, raspberry flavor. Take it. I mean, sometimes I take it just to be hyper
Yeah.
safe,
Mm-hmm.
and vigilant, but it works very well. And most people are not going to get sick on ships anymore. And by the way, not too many icebergs out there anymore either. So
Uh-huh.
to stay away from the Titanic movies before you go cruising, because Poseidon Adventure, your ship's not going to turn upside down.
David, we're on the same page. My 6-year-old became obsessed with the Titanic just a few weeks ago, and we just finished watching it. His name's Jack, too. So, ironically, the boys but they also started off by watching the documentary on National Geographic, and then we watched the movie, but they're still not scared of cruising. But I think they're more enthralled with, wow, a boat could be that big. And I'm thinking, oh, the Titanic. Just curious, how does the Titanic compare in size to these modern day cruise ships now?
I'm glad you asked that, because they're actually it was kind of small compared to the modern day cruise ships. It was more in the 80,000, 90,000 tons, I believe is the rate. So these 200,000 ton ships are almost probably double the size of what the Titanic was, at least
Wow.
double the size. So the Titanic certainly was a huge ship for the day. But the other thing is to go back to the seasickness, they have stabilizers on these ships that are incredible. Even new little boats you have on the lakes, and
Yeah.
are the small boats even have amazing stabilizers. I took what was probably my most challenging cruise ever in February, March of this year. I cruised to Antarctica.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Tell me about that. We talked the penguins.
yeah, so cruising to Antarctica is going through the most challenging waters on on this earth. It's through the Drake Passage. It's a legendary passage where the Atlantic and the ocean, the Atlantic Pacific meet, and the Amazon. And I say it's like being a ping pong ball in a washing machine. So, knowing that, I came very prepared for what potential is out there, but I was shocked because I was on a ship that held 180 people. So I'm
Wow.
like, uh-oh, that's going to be scary. And it turns out that it was incredibly smooth, because the majority of the time, we're on 5 to 15 foot waves. A majority of the time. One time we're at the 20 to 25 foot waves. That was interesting. Then you felt it a little bit more. But on an overall basis, the ship was very stable. They're built for it because they're expedition ships, in particular for crossings. And so it was very smooth, but certainly cruising the Caribbean or through the Mediterranean or the Baltics and things like that, it's like so smooth and butter. It's wonderful.
Oh my goodness. You got me thinking. You're so lucky. How many cruises do you do a year, by the way?
I probably average probably 2 or 3, but some of them are inaugurals. So when a new ship comes on out
Mm-hmm.
there, because of my relationships and being one of the cruise experts, I get invited and I'll go on a 2-day inaugural. That's a cruise to nowhere. So I can see the ship, so I can tell all of our clients about the ship and
Awesome.
give
When is
them.
that New World Caribbean one opening up?
I think that the Icon inaugurals are going to start coming out actually very soon. I'm guessing in November,
Awesome.
October, November, because I believe the ship is coming out in December, if I'm not incorrect.
Where's
Yeah,
that one going to be sailing to? Does it have an itinerary yet? Or is it
it's going to start in the Caribbean. It'll probably
okay?
stay mostly in the Caribbean, doing
Awesome.
Eastern or Western Caribbean itinerary. Eventually, they may move it south, but it will be in the Eastern, Western Caribbean itineraries.
Okay. Now, how far should we be booking cruises in advance? Is it better to book in advance or to wait? Want to talk about that? And also, I know there's so many dining options when you go on a boat too.
Oh, I know that has completely changed as well.
Always gain weight.
Yes. Well, that is the thing that people always talk about, is gaining weight on cruises, but there's the workout facilities are incredible, and there's so many different opportunities with different dining options that you should be okay unless you go crazy, which anyone can go crazy even in their own home. How far should you book a cruise in advance? As far as possible in general, because a lot of the cruise lines will put their itineraries out 2 to 3 years ahead of time.
Hmm.
So if you book ahead of time, you'll get the cabin that you want. And then you get sometimes early booking discounts. For example, if you don't book Alaska for next year, right now, you might not get to go to Alaska, which, by the way, cruising in Alaska in the Inside Passage, it's like cruising through butter. Out of your pictures, it's incredible. Many of your pictures are mirrored. So almost every picture you
Wow.
take, you have a mirrored image off the ship. It's pretty wild how smooth the water is. But book in advance. And then many of the cruise lines will have a deal where if the price of your cruise goes down, then they will change the price of your cruise to the lower fare. So you're pretty protected, and you get to get the cabin you want. You get to get the itinerary you want on the ship that you want. The farther ahead you can book, I would say the better off you are.
Got it. Okay. And now what about there's always dining packages available and options. What's your take on that? Do you take part of that or do you go a la carte?
Well, many of the boats have now these alternative or specialty restaurants, and they're separate kitchens for these restaurants than the main kitchen for the different dining rooms. And they always have those main dining rooms on, especially on the larger ships. And well, on the smaller ships, you'll always have your main dining room, and then you'll have the specialty dining experience.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're really paying for with those specialty dining experiences is you're actually paying a tip, ironically, because in the dining rooms or in on
Yeah.
all ships, they tell you give a gratuity for your waiter and your uh, all the different people that help out on board in regards to your dining experiences. Well, in the specialty dining areas, you're getting the same thing. Your busboy and your waiter.
Mm-hmm.
So the price that you're really paying for those, which is additional, okay, unless you can buy a package of dining experiences too on many of the ships, uh, are for really a tip,
Yeah.
ironically. So because all the people on board the ships, whether it be your cabin stewards, your bartenders, and all, many of them, if not all of them, are really kind of get room and board and work by tips. So it's really important to remember those great people giving you incredible
Yeah.
experiences. You need to really give your gratuities because that's
Mm-hmm.
really how they make their money. And the service level on cruise ships is second to none that you'll find anywhere in
I
the
love
world.
when you come in and that towel and that washcloth's like every day it's turned into something new. I want my kids to see that more than anything. It's a bird, it's a swan, it's a plane. No, it's a frog. It's like that makes me happy. And the way they fold the toilet paper. And I got to say, usually, I don't know, you tell me, is it every cruise? I've only been on a few cruises, but they've always been free room service. That's included because well, I like room service in the middle of the night, hungry after being out drinking. Is that
Yeah,
normal for most cruise ships to offer
yeah,
in
yes,
dining
that
room menu? Yes.
yes. And once again, if there is a charge, it's usually like a gratuity. It's not like
Yeah,
you're paying for the food.
got
So
it.
you don't have to pay anything additional for the food. It just may be, if there is a charge, it may be a gratuity for the person that is delivering your food. But yeah, there's nothing better than, that late night staying out to the bar. Here's what's also interesting on cruise ship. You gotta remember, the beauty of cruise ships, if you go on a trip and you have to like, oh, where do you want to go to dinner? I don't know where you want to go. I don't know where you want to go. Everyone's like, it's so much easier. You just kind of pick and choose. Second of all, I don't have to drive the boat home. So when I'm drunk, I just have to make it down the hallway.
Exactly. Yes. I think it's a great option. Why? I mean, Ubering or some people that take the risk of driving under the influence, which you should not. I mean, there's no question. You're it contained. Drink as much as you want. Be careful. But yeah, that's
Oh, by the
always
way,
a good thing. Yeah.
yeah, people are not falling off the boat. So that's another thing here. Can you fall off a boat? No, you have to jump off a boat. You can't fall
Oh
off the
yeah,
boat.
there was one in the news. Singapore. It was the other
Yeah,
day. Lady,
yeah,
they're saying jumped off, but it hasn't
yeah.
been confirmed yet. But family members say that didn't happen. But there's a few instances. There was that. It wasn't a cruise ship, but like boats in general and alcohol not safe. But these cruise lines are for the most part safe. Accidents do happen, right? But
I mean, they got cameras on the sides of the ship, so if anything happens, they know what's going on.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just extremely safe. And I mean, like, and they'll like, if you're out at a club or a bar, and there's a ton of people there. They'll keep it open.
Hey,
And a lot of places,
yeah.
and they'll keep it open because they can.
Are you allowed to bring your own alcohol on board a cruise?
Some of the cruise lines you can bring wine.
Okay.
So many bottles of wine, and ironically, some allow you to bring water. For some reason, people want to bring bottled water because sometimes you have to pay for the bottled water if you have a package. So they sometimes allow you to bring so many bottles of water and so many bottles of wine.
Good to know. All right. What about airfare? Do we book airfare with the cruise? Do we do it independently? Is there anything like that we should be aware of? And like those shore excursions, who do we book that with? Before, after, or during?
Yes, great question. So in regards to that, you should book your shore excursions. You can book them ahead of time a lot of times with many of the cruise ships. There's alternative routes if you're working with a travel professional. Sometimes if you have like a group of people, it may make sense to book some personal independent tours that are just private for you. Because then you can kind of go on your schedule and do it the way that you want to do it. But there's always availability, 99%, but you should book those things ahead of time.
Got it. All right. And we're almost out of time. Just quickly, the documentation. What do we need on the cruise? Passports?
And by the way, you can book the air through the cruise line, or you can book it independently on your own. Either way, it's just look at the best pricing in those cases.
Okay.
And the last question was, again,
documentation.
It depends on where you're going.
Okay.
And if you leave out of the U.S., you can go without a passport. However, I highly recommend any cruising you do, you get a passport, because if you have a problem and you end up being in another country, and you have to fly home from that country, you can't.
Got it.
You have a passport. So you need a passport. Get a passport, because you could have issues if you have to get off the ship. So yes, that's the documentation that's important. Get your passport, get your passport, get your passport. It takes a while. So you really need to go out there and get your passport. So,
all right. CadillacTravel.com. How else can we reach you?
We should say at 1-800-369-8747 trip, or 248-358-5330. Info at CadillacTravel.com, or David at CadillacTravel.com. You can email us, send us a smoke signal, whatever way you want to communicate. We'll be there for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.